Today, my closest friend sold my deepest secrets to the highest bidder, destroying my reputation and nearly ending my career. Standing in the ruins of what they thought was my life, I discovered an ancient truth about power that history's greatest leaders understood. Your enemies aren't really your enemies at all. They're alchemists, unknowingly transforming your character into pure gold through the fire of their betrayal. That evening, while others expected me to crumble, I began architecting a transformation so profound, so complete, that those who sought to destroy me would eventually study my methods. The weapons of destruction became my tools of construction. Their poison became my medicine. Their darkness became the contrast that made my light impossible to ignore. Something snapped inside me that day when I watched her walk away. Not my mother, not my sister, but a complete stranger who had just shown me what true victory looks like. She was leaving the cemetery, head high, while the very people who had tried to destroy her life stood there, jaws dropped, witnessing her unwavering grace. You see, they had spent years trying to break her spirit, spread vicious rumors, block her opportunities, and tear down everything she had built. Yet there she was, choosing to attend their loved one's funeral, offering genuine condolences and demonstrating a power so profound it left them speechless. That's when I understood the most lethal weapon against your enemies isn't revenge. It's not clever schemes or calculated strikes. It's something far more potent, far more transformative. And today I'm going to share with you 10 silent but devastating ways to completely disarm those who oppose you while simultaneously elevating yourself to heights they never imagined possible. But before we dive into these strategies, let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed how the people who hurt you the most are often fighting their own invisible battles? Have you considered that your greatest enemy might actually be the mirror that reflects your deepest fears back to you? You're sitting here right now, perhaps thinking about that coworker who takes credit for your work, that family member who constantly belittles your dreams, or that friend who betrayed your trust. Your heart might be heavy with thoughts of revenge, your mind racing with scenarios of getting even. But what if I told you that these very people who seem to stand in your way are actually doorways to your greatest transformation? This first silent but deadly way to take down your enemies is what I call the echo effect. When someone throws darkness at you, they expect darkness in return. It's the natural order of things, isn't it? You hurt me, I hurt you back. You gossip about me, I destroy your reputation. You block my progress, I make sure you never succeed. That's what I choose. The most powerful response to darkness is to become an amplifier of light. When they expect you to retaliate with bitterness, you respond with brilliance. When they anticipate your anger, you answer with achievement. When they wait for your breakdown, you break through. Let me share what happens in nature. When a tree is cut, do you know what it does? It grows taller. When gold is tested in fire, what happens? It becomes pure. When a grape is crushed, the sweetest wine. Your enemies are actually like gardeners, pruning you for greater growth. Refiners preparing you for greater purpose. Pressures transforming you into something extraordinary. The second deadly strategy is what I call the invisible promotion. Your enemies expect you to fight on their battlefield using their weapons, playing by their rules. But true victory doesn't come from winning their game. It comes from playing an entirely different game they don't even know exists. While they're busy plotting your downfall, you're quietly building your empire. While they're spreading rumors about your past, you're silently creating your future. While they're trying to close doors in your face, you're constructing entirely new buildings. Just told you know what makes this strategy so devastating? It completely dismantles their power over you. They can't fight against what they can't see. They can't tear down what they don't understand. They can't stop what they never saw coming. Their strategy is the Mercury principle. Mercury is fascinating. Try to grab it and it slips right through your fingers. Try to crush it and it divides into smaller droplets, only to come back together again. Your enemies want to define you, to contain you, to keep you in the box they've created for you. But like Mercury, you become uncatchable, uncontainable, unstoppable. This isn't about becoming elusive or unreliable. It's about becoming so adaptable, so resilient, so capable of reinvention that every attempt to limit you only reveals new aspects of your potential. When they think they figured you out, you've already evolved. When they think they've cornered you, you've already expanded. The fourth silent weapon is the oxygen response. Have you ever noticed how oxygen feeds a fire, but also sustains life? It can turn a spark into an inferno, but it's also the very thing we need to survive. Your response to enemies should be like oxygen. Let it fuel your fire for growth while sustaining your life force. When they try to suffocate your dreams with negativity, you don't just survive, you thrive. When they attempt to drown your spirit with doubts, you don't just float, you surf the wave to new shores. This strategy is what I call the diamond decision. A diamond doesn't form under gentle conditions. It requires us intense pressure, tremendous heat, and significant time. Your enemies are creating the very conditions necessary for your transformation into something extraordinary. But here's the key. A diamond doesn't just happen automatically under pressure. The carbon has to align itself in a specific way, maintain its structure under stress, and resist the temptation to remain mere cool. Similarly, your response to pressure must be intentional, structured, and focused on transformation rather than mere survival. Think about this. Every time someone tries to push you down, they're actually applying the pressure needed for your elevation. Every time they attempt to break you, they're contributing to your crystallization into something more valuable, more beautiful, more unbreakable. These first 5 strategies already outline a revolutionary approach to dealing with opposition. But remember, we're not just talking about surviving your enemies. We're talking about transforming the very energy they direct at you into fuel for your ascension. We're talking about using their opposition as a foundation for your elevation. Are you starting to see how this works? How every attack can become an opportunity. How every obstacle can transform into a stepping stone. The beauty of these strategies is that they don't require you to become something you're not. They call forth what's already within you, waiting to be activated. What of the person who seems determined to destroy you is actually a catalyst for your greatest breakthrough? What if that opposition isn't a roadblock, but a runway? What if your enemies aren't really enemies at all, but rather unwitting participants in your journey to greatness? Stay with me, because what I'm about to share next will completely revolutionize how you view opposition in your life. The next 5 strategies are even more powerful, more transformative, and more devastating in their effectiveness. But remember, we're not seeking to destroy our enemies. We're seeking to destroy the power they think they have over us. And in doing so, potentially transform them too. Here's strategy I call the mirror mastery. Let me tell you something profound that happens in nature. When light hits a mirror at just the right angle, it doesn't just reflect. It can illuminate entire rooms previously shrouded in darkness. Your response to enemies should be like that mirror. Every time they project their insecurities onto you, every time they throw their limitations in your face, every time they try to dim your light, you don't absorb their darkness. Instead, you reflect back possibility. You show them what transformation looks like. You demonstrate what they could become if they channel their energy differently. But here's where it gets interesting. Have you ever noticed How the people who try to tear you down are often fighting battles you know nothing about. Their attacks, their criticism, their attempts to diminish you, they're usually projecting their own pain, their own fears, their own unmet potential. When you master the middle strategy, something extraordinary happens. Instead of engaging in their battle, you show them a reflection of what's possible. When they expect you to crumble, you create. When they anticipate your failure, you flourish. If they predict your downfall, you rise with such grace that it forces them to question their own limitations. The seventh deadly strategy is what I call the waterfall effect. Have you ever tried to fight against a waterfall? It's futile. Water doesn't fight back. It simply continues its journey, gathering power, creating beauty, carving new paths through solid rock, not through force, but through consistent flow. Your enemies expect resistance. They are prepared for conflict. They strategize for confrontation. But what happens when you respond like a waterfall? You keep flowing, keep growing, keep going, not in spite of their opposition, but incorporating it into your journey. Think about this. A waterfall doesn't stop flowing because someone throws rocks in its path. Instead, it transforms those very rocks into part of its symphony. The obstacles become part of its music. The eighth strategy is the bamboo blueprint. For years, bamboo can grow underground, seemingly doing nothing. People might walk over it, dismiss it, declare it a failure. But beneath the surface is developing an intricate root system that will eventually support explosive growth, shooting up to nearly 100 feet in just a few weeks. Your enemies might think you're doing nothing. They might celebrate what they perceive as your lack of progress. But like the bamboo, you're building foundations they cannot see, developing strengths they cannot measure, preparing for growth they cannot imagine. Strategy requires something rare in our instant gratification words: patient power. The power to keep building when no one sees results. The strength to keep growing when others doubt. The wisdom to know that the most powerful transformations often happen in silence, in darkness, in ways that are invisible to those who are waiting for your failure. The ninth deadly strategy is what I call the Phoenix Protocol. We all know the story of the phoenix, the mythical bird that burns to ashes only to rise again, more magnificent than before. This is what most people miss. The phoenix doesn't just survive the fire for its transformation. Your enemies think they're destroying you with their fire of criticism, their flames of opposition, their heat of hatred. But what if you could develop such an extraordinary relationship with fire that instead of burning you, it transforms you? What if every attempt to destroy you becomes the very catalyst for your reinvention? This isn't about pretending the fire doesn't hurt. This isn't about denying the pain of betrayal or the sting of opposition. This is about developing such a profound understanding of transformation that you begin to recognize every fire as an opportunity for rebirth. Arrive at the 10th and most devastating strategy: the gravity principle. Gravity doesn't argue. It doesn't fight. It doesn't defend itself. It simply is. When you embody the gravity principle, you develop a presence so powerful, so centered, so unshakable, that you no longer need to defend yourself against attacks. You no longer need to prove your worth to those who doubt you. You no longer need to justify your existence to those who question you. Instead, like gravity, you become a force that others begin to orbit around. Not through manipulation, not through force, not through fear, but through the sheer power of your transformed presence. Think about this. Have you ever noticed how the most powerful forces in nature are often the quietest? Gravity doesn't shout. Photosynthesis doesn't boast. Evolution doesn't argue. Yet they transform entire worlds. Your enemies expect you to engage in noise. They anticipate your loud defense, your public resistance, your visible retaliation. But when you embody these 10 strategies, you transform so profoundly that their weapons become obsolete. An oak tree doesn't fight the wind. It grows stronger roots. The river doesn't battle the rock. It shapes it over time. The moon doesn't argue with clouds. It continues to shine. Let me share something that will revolutionize how you implement these strategies. It's not enough to know them. You must understand how they weave together to create an impenetrable fortress of personal power. Listen to that. Great transformation in history happened not because someone fought harder, but because they transcended the very battlefield their opponents had chosen. When you truly grasp this, everything changes. Remember that stranger I mentioned at the cemetery? Her power didn't come from implementing just one strategy. She had mastered the art of weaving all 10 together into what I call the tapestry of transcendence. Let's look at how these strategies create synergy. When you combine the echo effect with the Mercury principle, something extraordinary happens. Not only do you reflect light instead of darkness, but you become impossible to pin down or define by your enemy's limited perspectives. Think about water for a moment. When you try to grab it, it slips through your fingers. When you try to punch it, it absorbs the impact. When you try to block it, it finds another path. Yet this same water over time can carve through mountains and create valleys. This is what happens when you master these strategies in combination. But here's where most people miss the point entirely. They think these strategies are about becoming untouchable, about building walls, about protecting themselves. No. These strategies are about becoming so authentically powerful that attacks strengthen rather than weaken you. Let me share something deeper about the diamond decision. When it merges with the Phoenix protocol, diamonds don't just withstand pressure. They become more brilliant under pressure. The Phoenix doesn't just survive fire. It requires fire for transformation. When you combine these principles, you develop what I call adversity alchemy. The ability to transform opposition into opportunity, pressure into power, criticism into creation. Have you ever watched how a master martial artist moves? They don't meet force with force. They don't fight energy with energy. Instead, they redirect, transform, and utilize their opponent's energy to. This is precisely what these strategies allow you to do with any form of opposition in your life. And let me warn you about something crucial. These strategies aren't about becoming passive. They are not about surrendering to abuse or accepting mistreatment. They're about becoming so internally powerful that external attacks lose their ability to define or destroy you. The oxygen response combined with the gravity principle creates what I call centered sovereignty. Just as oxygen is essential for life, it can fuel a fire, and gravity holds worlds together without visible effort. You develop the ability to be both essential and untouchable, powerful and peaceful, engaged and unaffected. Your enemies aren't really fighting you. They're fighting their own reflection in the mirror of your potential. When you shine too brightly, you expose the darkness they haven't dealt with in themselves. When you succeed too obviously, you highlight the dreams they've abandoned. When you love too freely, you reveal the barriers they've built around their own hearts. This understanding transforms how you implement the mirror mastery. Instead of just reflecting light, you begin to understand that every attack against you is really a cry for transformation from the attacker. Every attempt to dim your light is really a desperate reach toward brightness. A bamboo blueprint, when woven with the waterfall effect, creates what I call as bamboo's invisible growth supports its eventual unstoppable rise. And water's persistent flow shapes landscapes. You develop the power to grow through any obstacle while maintaining absolute grace. But here's where it gets even more profound. These strategies don't just change how you deal with enemies. They transform your entire understanding of opposition. What if your greatest enemy isn't the person trying to stop your progress, but the part of you that believes they can? Think about this. Has anyone ever successfully stopped the sun from rising? Has anyone ever prevented spring from following winter? Has anyone ever kept a seed from sprouting when it's ready to grow? The same unstoppable force of life that moves the cosmos moves through you. When you fully embody these strategies, something miraculous happens. Your enemies begin to experience what I call the transformation echo. As you transform their attacks into achievements, their criticism into creation, their opposition into opportunity, they begin to witness a power they've never encountered before. This isn't about revenge. This isn't about winning. This isn't even about success. This is about becoming such a powerful force for transformation that you transform not just yourself, but every energy that comes into contact with you, whether positive or negative. This is how a master alchemist approaches their work. They don't just change the form of materials. They understand the essential nature of transformation itself. They know that every substance contains within it the potential for something greater. Now, your enemies, through their very opposition, are offering you your material for your greatest transformations. But let me be clear about something. This journey isn't easy. It requires you to die to old patterns of reaction. It demands that you release the addiction to drama that society has programmed into you. It challenges you to transcend the very human desire for revenge and retribution. What happens when you actually start living these principles? Let me tell you what transformation really looks like in the trenches of daily life, where theory meets reality, where philosophy faces the fire of real opposition. Picture yourself walking into that office where someone has just undermined your project. Your blood is boiling. Your mind is racing with thoughts of retaliation. Every fiber of your being wants to expose their betrayal. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is where these strategies either become your reality or remain mere concepts. In that moment, the echo effect merges with the gravity principle. Instead of erupting in anger or plotting revenge, you focus all that energy into becoming so excellent at your work that their sabotage becomes irrelevant. You don't fight the darkness. You simply increase your light. But here's what most people never realize about true power. It's in what you become. When someone launches an attack against you, they are actually giving you an opportunity to demonstrate mastery. They are unknowingly offering you a stage to showcase transformation. Let me share something deeper about the Mercury principle in action. When that family member constantly criticizes your dreams, trying to force you into their version of what your life should be, you don't become rigid in defiance. Instead, you become Mercury, fluid, adaptive, impossible to grasp. You see, most people spend their entire lives in reaction mode. Someone pushes, they push back. Someone criticizes, they defend. Someone attacks, they counterattack. If you could operate from a place so powerful that their actions become irrelevant to your trajectory. The waterfall effect in daily life looks like this. When they spread rumors about you, you don't stop to throw stones back. You keep flowing, keep growing, keep creating. The very energy they spend trying to destroy you becomes the force that drives your momentum. Here's the truth that will transform how you handle opposition. Your enemies are actually investing energy in you. They're thinking about you, talking about you. But while they're doing that, you're not investing in them. You're investing in your growth, your goals, your transformation. For the bamboo blueprint plays out in fascinating ways in real life. While they think nothing is happening, while they celebrate what they perceive as your failure, you're building something so profound, so powerful, that when it finally emerges, it will be unstoppable. But they warn you about something crucial. These strategies require tremendous self-mastery. You'll be tempted countless times to fall back into old patterns of reaction. You'll feel the pull of revenge, the seduction of getting even the false power of striking back. This is where the diamond decision becomes vital. Under pressure, you must choose again and again to transform rather than retaliate. You must decide repeatedly to turn pressure into power, opposition into opportunity, attacks into advantages. The Phoenix Protocol in daily life means that when they try to burn your reputation, you don't just survive, you emerge with new wings. When they attempt to destroy your dreams, you don't just endure, you evolve. Every fire they light becomes fuel for your transformation. There's something profound about the oxygen response in practice. Just as oxygen is invisible yet essential for life, your response to enemies should be invisible yet transformative. They throw darkness, you increase light. They spread fear, you emanate faith. They generate chaos. As you practice these strategies, you notice something extraordinary happening. People who used to trigger you no longer have that power. Situations that would have crushed you become opportunities for display of grace. Opposition that would have stopped you becomes the wind beneath your wings. So the mirror mastery in daily life means that when someone projects their limitations onto you, you don't absorb their projection. You reflect back possibility. When they show you their fear, you show them faith. When they demonstrate scarcity, you display abundance. Think about this. Have you ever noticed how a master chef uses everything in the kitchen? Even bitter herbs become part of magnificent dishes. The heat that could burn becomes the force that transforms raw ingredients into masterpieces. This is how you must learn to use everything your enemies throw at you. The real power of these strategies isn't in any one moment of victory. It's in the complete transformation of how you exist in the world. You no longer live in reaction to what others do to you. You live in response to what you know you can become. Well, it's something that might surprise you. As you master these strategies, you'll find yourself feeling genuine compassion for your enemies. Not because you're trying to be noble, but because you understand that their attacks against you are really expressions of their own unhealed wounds, their own unfulfilled potential, their own unexpressed greatness. The ultimate power of these strategies isn't just in handling enemies, it's in transforming your entire existence. When these principles become who you are, not just what you do, something extraordinary happens. You transcend the very concept of having enemies. Think about the mighty oak. It doesn't waste energy fighting other trees or comparing itself. It simply grows, reaches for light, and creates an ecosystem that benefits everything around it. This is your invitation to become so engaged in growth and creation that opposition becomes irrelevant. But understand, you're not becoming passive or naive. Instead, you develop transcendent awareness. You see the games, recognize the attacks, understand the strategies, but choose to operate from a higher plane of existence. Like a lion that never loses sleep over the opinion of sheep, or an eagle that never stops soaring, because ground animals criticize its flight. So the miracle occurs when you realize these strategies aren't just about external enemies. They transform the internal enemies that have held you back. The doubt whispering you're not enough. The fear suggesting you should play small. The shame insisting you don't deserve greatness. When you master these principles, your very opponents become catalysts for breakthrough. Situations meant to destroy you become foundations for destiny. Opposition intended to stop you becomes the wind beneath your wings. At the highest level of transformation, you no longer need to take down enemies because you've transcended the consciousness that created enemies in the first place. You operate from such power that others either rise to meet you there or fall away naturally. Like water flowing through rock, you don't fight. You transform the very landscape that tried to contain you. The ultimate power isn't in winning battles. It's in transcending the battlefield entirely. Becoming so focused on your purpose that others' attacks become irrelevant to your trajectory. You develop radiant resilience. Like the sun, you don't fight darkness. You simply shine. Like gravity, you don't argue with opposition. You simply hold your center. Like time, you don't battle resistance. You simply continue your eternal forward movement. This is your invitation. Become so transformed that your presence transforms others. So elevated that you naturally elevate everyone around you. So powerful in your light that darkness cannot exist in your presence. The greatest victory isn't in taking down enemies. It's in transcending the need for enemies. It's in becoming so powerful in your purpose that opposition becomes irrelevant. In transforming so completely that you become a force for transformation in the world. The question isn't whether these strategies work. It's whether you're ready to become someone who no longer needs them. Ready to stop fighting darkness and simply increase your brightness. This is your moment to transcend conflict and step into power that changes not just your life, but every life you touch. The most devastating response to enemies isn't destruction. It's transformation. Not just theirs, but yours. Because when you truly transform, you become living proof that their opposition wasn't just futile.